Okay, rise of the novel in the 18th century. Why am I adding 18th century? Because the novel rose 18th century. Now, before I even go ahead, I need you to understand when we say 18th century, we're talking about 1700 to 1799. That's how century counts. It's not going to even have 18 in it. So 1700 to 1799 was the period that the novel rose. But before we move on, we need to understand the classification of prose fiction. We have the novel, we have the novella, and we have the short story. Now, while the novella is longer or bigger than the short story, the novel is the highest. So you need to understand that novel is like the big books you read, and it has to range from 10,000 words, at least 10,000 words, to unlimited or countable. This 18th century was the rise, or was the period of the rise of the industrialization, the industrial period. And the industrial period was dominated by, or the Renaissance, depending on where you find yourself. It's either called industrialization or the industrial period, or the Renaissance period. Now, this is the period where the middle class came into full surge and existence. Now, who are the middle class men? Those that are not the nobles and they are not the commoners, but the balance in between. Now, you need to understand first that the novel was something that was a property or a possession of the noble class. The nobles, when I mean nobles, another word, aristocrats. Now, these are people that are seen as up there and they are cannot be reached, they're just there. There was nothing like a middle class. It's either you're an aristocrat or a commoner, right? So this was a possession where they saw it as a kind of a level, a kind of achievement. You have some novels and only we can read and understand. There's only we that can read and write. But then, why did I say this? To let you understand that it's not like as if the novel was not in existence before the rise of the novel, but when we say something rose, it means it has been existing, but when it finally came into full surge or full recognition, it was 18th century, and that was because of the middle class. Now, reasons amongst this is because these middle class men were mostly industrialists, like I say, capitalists, people that owns companies. Either you are the owners or you're the hands, either you're the bourgeoisie or you're the proletariat. Yeah, so it's either they are at work or they are at war. Now, of course, there's someone that's going to be left at home. Who are those? Their wives and their children. So when they're at war and they're at work, the women have to look for things, or have to, not even look for things, have to look for things that would keep them company. And what do they sort to? They sort to things that they can read. That they sort to articles, they sort to newspapers, they sort to posters on the wall, they sort to lots of written things that made, okay, fine, if we can have all these things written, why can't we just join them together and try to pull a story? Let's try to string some story. Let's try to write about our situation and what's happening. Let's try to make a novel out of this. And that's what is referred to as occupational reasons. When we mean occupational reasons, what was the occupation of the husbands, of the wives, that is the women of the 18th century? Secondly, we have something called revolving libraries. Revolving libraries. Now, it might not be relatable, but I can create an example. Now, this is, for example, I have a novel. For example, A Purpose-Driven Life. I have a novel, and I'm done reading it, and I go visit my friend, and I see a novel on his table, and I'm like, okay, are you done with that? He says, yeah, I'm done with that. It's like one I'm looking for. I'm looking for, I don't know, something purpose. I can't remember. It says a purpose. Yeah, A Purpose-Driven Life. Yes, I have it. We can exchange. That's revolving libraries. There was no libraries where they can go and borrow books. So it was, what do you have? What do you have? Okay, I'm done with this. Let's swap. So it's more like a swapping system. So it's referred to as revolving library. So in that way, the novel kept us spreading, and there were a lot of stories, and that led to things that we know today as a book club, where people come and then they come and discuss a book they have read and what they think about the book, criticisms and the rest. All right. So now moving on, another reason was printing medias, or press, as we all know it now. Now, what was the use of the printing media? Remember that for those that, I don't know, that watch Chinese movies or Korean movies, as far as Joseon and the Ming Dynasty, we see that when they want to post an announcement, to make an announcement, they get someone that can draw the face of who they want to talk about, and then probably a little bit of some information, and then they send the messengers to go around the city and paste and paste and paste and paste again. So now they paste, and people of a particular province gather to one post and then try to look for who can understand, and somebody will explain to them. Now, if the printing press or whoever was that invented the printing angle of the 18th century, I thought, okay, why do we have to paste it on the wall when we can paste all this and have people come pick it up? So now, because of such notion or because of such drive, there is now a rise. While the novels were rising, there was a rise of the printing press where people can get mass copies of a particular news or a particular information. So if I say, for example, go get your literature textbook, I wouldn't have to post it in one place and let people come through. I wouldn't have to post it in one place and let plenty of people come through to come and say, no. I could just say, go get your literature textbook, and then have the printing press print like 100 copies. So it's going to be the same information, the same color, the same everything, and you'll still get the same information passed across. And these are amongst lots of reasons that led to the rise of the novel in the 18th century. But bear in mind that amongst it was the revolving libraries, the 18th century women, the occupational reasons, the printing press, and the rise of newspapers and articles, etc., and so on and so forth. So your take home should be this, that the 18th century is 1700 to 1799, and certain reasons brought about the rise of the novel. If not, it would have remained at the aristocrat level, and there would have been a big gap between the aristocrats and the commons. So thank you very much.